Hello and welcome to this Blender Beginners video tutorial. In this one we're going to be doing basic object manipulation, such as changing its position, its size, its rotation. Okay, so we're going to start with grabbing. Grabbing is when you move an object from one position to another position in 3D space. So there are two techniques to do this. You can use these you can use the grab manipulators here, these arrows. So you get the blue arrow, which stands for the Z-axis, which goes up, the green arrow, which stands for the Y-axis, which goes across, and the X arrow, which also stands for the X-axis, the red arrow that stands for the X-axis that goes across. So we can manipulate it along any of these axes. So we can left click on this arrow and drag it like that, and then we can drag it along the X, drag it along the Z, and then if you don't want to drag it along these certain lines, you can always just select the center of the circle. If you just make sure you don't select the point, so just select just around the inner side of the circle, not at the very center, and you can drag it like that, and it will drag it. It's not going to go, it's going to stay the same distance from you. It's just going to move on either horizontally or vertically according to your view. So it's not going to move closer or further from you. So we can go like that. We can drag it like that. You can also use the G key. The G key is where you press the G key, I'm sure you guessed, and you can grab it and it will move. And it's exactly the same as dragging that grab manipulator from the center. It won't get any further or closer from you. It's just going to go move vertically or horizontally. So, and then you can also constrain it. So say I want to drag it along this red line, which is the X-axis. I can just press the X key and I can constrain it along the X-axis. And if I want to do constraining along the Y-axis, I can press the Y key. And if I want to constrain it along the Z-axis, I just simply press the Z key. I can do it like that. So then we can go and simply manipulate it like that. So that's grabbing. It's really simple. Once we cover edit mode and all the different modes, which we'll get to in next tutorials, we'll see how this grabbing can become is a bit more advanced depending on how you use it. So that's grabbing. Okay, now we're going to cover rotating. So in Blender, to rotate an object, you would simply press. You can use the manipulators, but now you'll see we're in the grab manipulators. So to change it, we can change it to the rotation manipulator, which is you can change down here. By the way, if you can't see the manipulator, you just have to enable or disable the manipulator widget right there. So we're going to use the rotation manipulator, and you'll see we're provided with these arcs, and so they're all colored, and you'll notice that when we drag one, so go and just click anywhere on this arc, so we'll do the red. When we drag one, it's going to rotate around the red axis, and that's why the arcs are color coded. So when you drag the red arc, it's going to rotate it around the red axis. Same with the Y, same with the Z. And then you'll see there's this white line. That white line will rotate it according to your view. So it's not going to rotate. So say I was in front view, for example. So say I was here, and you can barely see the X-axis. If I were to drag that, it's not going to rotate around. It's going to rotate around the X-axis. So we basically can, I don't know, to put it simply, we're creating our own axes. to rotate it around. Another technique for rotating an object in the 3D viewport in Blender is to use the R key. Now the R key, well, stands for rotate, I'm sure you guessed. So when you press it, you'll see you can drag your mouse around and it's going to rotate according to your view. So let's press to constrain it. It's just like grabbing. You just press the X and you will constrain it and rotate it around the X axis, the Y to do it around the Y axis, and the Z to do it around the Z axis. And then another thing is when you press R twice, you can rotate it using can rotate it in 3D basically from one view. So it's not locked to your view. So there you can see how we're rotating it in all directions. And that's rotation. Now that we've covered grabbing and rotating, let's move on to scaling. Scaling is when you change the dimensions of an object to change it into a different shape. So we turn a cube into a cuboid. So to scale, we can use the scale manipulator, which is located here. You can identify it by the cubes that it has. So instead of arrows, it's cubes. So we can select one of the cubes. So let's select the Z axis and we can drag it up and we'll scale along the Z axis, and we've made the cube taller. We can select the red one and we'll scale it along the X axis, making it wider. And then we can also select the green one and we can make it thinner or fatter. So let's make it like that. So we can we can drag each one of those to scale it along a certain axis. So you can also, just like grabbing, you can select inside the circle and you can scale on all the axes at the same time. So say you have the object in the right portion, you can make it smaller by just selecting the middle of the circle and inside the circle and dragging it outside to make it bigger and inside to make it smaller. So that's scaling with the scale manipulators. As well as using the scale manipulators, we can also use the S key. So when you press the S key, you will see that it will scale on all the axes evenly at the same time. Just the same as what would happen when we select the inside of a circle of the scale manipulator. It does exactly the same thing. So the scales there. So now say we want to constrain it to an axis, just like the grab, just like the rotate, we'll use the Z key to constrain it along the Z, X key to constrain it along the X, and the Y key to constrain it along the Y. And by combining all of these, we can form an object. And that's using the S key for the scale manipulator to scale things. So this just covered the basics of object manipulation in Blender. They do get more advanced as we progress, but don't worry, this is all you need to start creating some awesome stuff. So until next time, bye.